All right, hello, thank you, and welcome everyone to the NFT panel, The Creator Economy Meets the Ownership Economy. First, I'd love to thank our gracious guest, our host here, Brave House, which is a co-working space. Thank you, Khadija, for putting up with these crypto degens. They're pretty tamed right now, but after a couple drinks, they kind of get loosened up, but that's later. We also love to thank Bloom on Franklin. Bloom on Franklin is a monthly ceremony of arts and culture that was designed with purpose. That purpose is to celebrate, inspire, and grow the art culture with a focus on spiritual and mental health. They incorporate an immersive experience that provides the opportunity for memories to be made for visitors of all ages. So that's actually going to happen up and down the street here soon. The Tampa Bay DAO has partnered with Brave House and the Bloom on Franklin to host this panel highlighting NFTs in the creator economy in the Tampa Bay area. NFTs offer creators a whole new way to monetize directly from their fans. Honestly, the numbers would surprise you. So what we did today was we actually surveyed a good bit of the audience already and came up with a list of questions that we're going to ask you guys. So that way, then we'll go through the whole process of NFTs and then we'll open up for Q&A in a little bit, right? So just for a reference about NFTs and the industry itself, last year, $3.9 billion was generated online through NFTs, averaging about $174,000 per creator. Just to give you context and reference, in the same time frame, Spotify creators generated $7 billion in revenue online, only averaging $636 per creator. YouTube generated $15 billion online in revenue, and only $2.47 were given per creator. Facebook creators generated over $15 billion in revenue, $300 million in revenue, averaging only 10 cents per creator. So this panel is about how creators can begin their journey into NFTs and how you could potentially leverage this opportunity to create income through these new emerging tools and the technology. Our panelists, first up, 777, aka Patrick, aka the Resident Wizard, one of the veteran crypto operators in the Tampa Bay scene, and has led DAO operations and communications for crypto communities at many scales. His current interests are lore crafting, gamification, and tokenomic incentive design, which are all related to areas that apply to the NFT category. Next up is Jeremy Bill, TBD co-founder, also long-term contributor to the crypto space on building communities. He's a developer and advocates for developers in technical writing. His current interests are in the same areas of crypto, but now focusing more on building sustainable governance structures for TBD in a localized environment. Next up is Alex DeVitro, also co-founder of the Tampa Bay DAO, artist, creator, educator, also known locally as Man Bun, also known as A1, steak sauce, steak being for crypto, not actual meat. Currently, his focus has been on making crypto Web3 content a little bit more digestible and a little bit more approachable for newcomers. He also enjoys having his hair shampooed and finding creative use cases for NFTs. He has a passion for sharing with others the opportunities for creative freedom that the blockchain has now unlocked. Next up is Tyler Hinkle, also a co-founder of Tampa Bay DAO, DeFi educator, yield farmer, NFT obsessed, and creator of one of the biggest NFT drop sites on the Cardano chain. Tyler, aka T-Fresh, also known as Eyebrows, is a strategic developer with a passion for game theory, psychology, and product-focused understanding of crypto capabilities. Those are your tech team, essentially. So now we also have some creatives as well who are also in the industry as well too. Ben Lopez, being a brand designer and illustrator, he's been infusing art into function for over a decade. From having a digital agency and the autonomous venture, The Late Night. Ben, I would have more about you, but it took me a minute to get your information. So I was like, I'm a little short on time. Eric Sanchez, also a member of Oregon, a creative brand agency here with a focus on brand strategy and visual identity. Currently, he specializes in responsive logo design, which is one integral part of NFT technology today, weirdly enough. With that being said, we got some questions for you guys. So first up, our question is, actually, my hand up, got the mic. You got the mic. Our first question is, in simple terms, so tech talk aside, what is an NFT?
So an NFT is a, is this good? Okay.
Hold the mic closer.
Yeah, right here? Okay.
Yep.
All right. An NFT, in simple terms, is a digital collectible. So it's a way of having property on the blockchain. And because it's on the blockchain and because it's a digital piece of property, you can do a lot of interesting things with it that you wouldn't be able to do with a traditional collectible. So if you think of like old baseball cards or memorabilia and things like that, over time, those, first of all, people lose them, they get destroyed or something like that. With NFTs, it's always in pristine condition. There's new things you can add on top of it, new utilities you can add to it, because you know the addresses of the people that hold them. So it's collectibles with a lot of interesting things on top.
I would love Ben to answer it. What is your take on an NFT?
An NFT to me is simply a vehicle to share your creativity and your art with an audience. It's just another tool in the repertoire of a creative for me. So while he nailed it on the head that it's a collectible, I think it's ways to explore, we've talked about adding, extra utility to your NFT. Is there a lore behind it? Is there a community behind it? So again, it's connecting a creator with an audience and a way to express yourself and just a creative outlet.
Wow, those beautiful answers on both parts. Definitely got a good taste of like the technical piece and from a creative perspective. I like that. So this goes into my next question then. So since you guys are creative and as an artist, are NFTs just limited to artists?
No. The simple answer is no. In fact, I've even, because it's such an interesting Wild West, scene right now, I've even brought it up to my parents who are in their 60s, as a way to, yes, explore their creativity and their, their golden years, but also as a way to explore potential monetary value. When I sold my first NFT, my mom, at first she didn't get it. She was like, what is this digital thing? She already doesn't know how to use the internet and Facebooks and whatever. But then once I got cash for the first thing, wait a minute, what is this?
Made it real for her.
Yeah,
Man,
it made
all
it tangible.
All of a sudden, it deposited in your bank account.
Yeah,
It was like, oh, this
exactly.
is real.
Especially my parents are immigrants from Cuba, and they're, wait, you made money for a digital thing that a person didn't buy? There's no physical, tangible good?
Immigrant story, I love it.
Exactly. So I think, no, it's not just for artists. It's for anyone that wants to express themselves, anyone that wants to explore new technologies. I think, the possibilities, not to be cheesy, are endless in that way.
Yeah, there's a common service that we use in the Ethereum community. It's the Ethereum name service. So if you've ever seen somebody with like .eth on their name, it operates like a domain. It's like a domain name, but the way in which it's registered on the Ethereum blockchain is an NFT. So in that way, it's not exclusive to artwork. It's any registered property on a blockchain is a use case for an NFT. And there's many more examples, but if you notice the .eths, if you're starting to participate in crypto communities, those are NFTs.
Yeah, to plus one what Pat said, a lot of people think of NFT, they associate it mostly with art. But in addition to the domain names, you've got tokenized real estate. There's also, you could think of it as a digital identity, because an NFT, it's verifiable ownership in the form of a digital token. So like your digital identity, your health records, your school records, all of that can take the form of an NFT. And then that's always yours to access whenever.
Okay, so verifiable identity. So what influenced this movement of NFTs then? Well, what inspired for people to create this?
To create NFTs as a token
as a
standard?
new medium, as this new way of doing things.
Well, because the original token standards was fungible tokens, right? Which is like Bitcoin as an example. If I have one Bitcoin and you have one Bitcoin, you cannot tell the difference. There's no uniqueness about either Bitcoin. Like the first Bitcoin ever minted is the same as the last one that was just minted. So the inspiration behind it was to create something that was non-fungible in that it could be represented with originality on chain. The original use cases weren't art. If you listen to some of Vitalik's talks, he's like, I was not expecting this NFT shit to happen. He was thinking of things like Ethereum name service and domain registries and digital identity solutions. But the point is, in terms of a primitive you need for this decentralized web, you need a unique identifier, which is what the NFTs solve. So that's what it was inspired by.
And I also noticed you took my +1 because I always say +1. So, and we kind of talked about this offline a little bit in terms of just like breaking down like what inspires like NFTs. So, because it's unique that it passed down, and one of the best analogies I always like use is a family heirloom. You have your nana that would give you a ring, and that ring passed down to your mom and now to you. And so this is like another way of like almost like holding historical value because it can then transpire from one person to the next. So it's almost like retaining memory, retaining purpose in that one individual piece. And so that's why I think as well that's like another cool like use case of what will transpire, because now that I know like one of these two creatives at the end who created, I'm like, shit, that came from your wallet to me, and I can prove that in this unique way. So now it creates a maternal like value in which that people can now use, and that's when we're going to start seeing the rise on like that true like novelty that comes in.
Oh, actually, just to add to that, one thing that's interesting that wasn't really easy to do before, but it's possible for NFTs, is if someone transferred an NFT to somebody who was famous, for example, you can now see that it was in their wallet before it got transferred to you. So it's actually like whoever has the NFT, it can add value to it, and they can make that NFT more valuable over time. You know, so we've seen some NFTs where they've actually put them in advertising campaigns or put them on a billboard or something like that, like with Bored Apes. So people can take ownership of their own NFT, add value to it, and tie their brand to it, and build even more value into the collection.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. You have anything you want to add?
Yeah, of course. And where all your points come to, an understanding for me as an artist is, the fact of ownership. Creating something that essentially I own, I create, and I know it's original to that point. It's great to just, if you want to have it, that's great. That's phenomenal. I still get benefits from that. You can resell it, that's great. I still get benefits for it. So just like a painting or a painter, let's take Dali for example. I'm a fan of the persona of who he is and his art, of course. But let's say, for example, that Ben wanted to have the art, he could have it there, but that's still a Dali painting. He still has ownership of it. You just get to view it every day and still pay it and resell it at the same time. So it's mutually beneficial to have that type of knowledge mixed with where we come into play into all this. So.
Nice, I love it. So with that being said, you guys pretty much said very similar things as far as like how it's actually used and worked, right? And then Tyler brought up a good point about brand and business as far as like introducing almost like a utility effect of it's like based on like the artist can get paid royalties off of the NFT, right? So do you guys believe, like, why would a utility be important in the NFT space? Like, do you see it as important right now?
I don't, it's not necessary, I should say. It could be important depending on what you want to do and what your goals are, but it's definitely not necessary. Some of the most successful NFT projects are simply art that are in the form of NFTs, and people like the aesthetic. And in fact, you could make an argument that the less you promise, like Tyler and I were talking about this quite a bit actually earlier, but the less you promise, the more imagination it inspires in the audience, and who are also owners of this collection. Therefore, you create this shared mythology, which has its own set of value that's new and unique to an NFT community, whereas it would be different in other kind of digital collectible spaces because you get to create the IP and the lore from it yourselves. But if you want to inspire other types of utilities, as an artist, you have those options. NFTs exist on like using Ethereum as an example, they exist on a composable network in which you can build in that functionality if you choose. So if you want to get rights on resales, you can get rights on resales. If you want to donate, or you can get those automatically. If you want to, if you want this NFT to be a part of a game, you can build that into the functionality. There's different utilities that you can explore. Access is another example. If you want this to give you rights of exclusive merch over time. That's another thing that you can do. I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it's definitely one of the advantages you have to operating in this space, and why not explore it?
Yeah, so, oh shit, might be. Yes, plus one will pass that. It definitely isn't necessary. But one of the most important things as well is the fact that you have that optionality. So no matter how you look at it, you have the optionality to engage, right? So as an artist, it's like, if you have a community that like really wants to get behind you, want to really engage, well, you can actually do that. Well, how? Can you imagine, let's just take, who remember the show The Proud Families on Disney? Yes, yeah, you got it. Hell yeah. So can you imagine, like as a creative director, and I can say, like, hey, even though I don't need the utility, but I really want to engage, how would I do that? Well, by you having this, help me write an episode. Because now you just created a relationship, and that will help really kind of bring on that engagement with your community. So it's not necessary, but it's also depending on what you want. So if you believe in like collectivism and unity, then that is something that you would do if that's what you choose. And so that's what we're starting to see now, is like how the artists can engage with the community by offering incentives and utilities to that, so it can keep growing and growing and growing. Because an idea is just as good as a community that it was built around. So as long as you have more people wanting to build around that community and that idea and that art, it will slowly keep going up over time. So yeah.
Yeah, just one more point to add on to this is the community.
I want to make sure I get these creatives in, guys.
We'll get you in. It's a quick point. These guys want to talk. But yeah, like Jeremy was saying, being able to reach out to actual members of your community, it's just hasn't been really practical to do before without NFTs, and I think the idea of stacking utility is something that is really separating projects. Now, it's about like not over-promising, but still being able to provide new ways of using NFTs and new novelty, because there's so many copycat projects, they're all trying to do the same thing. If people try finding new ways to add utility, or they have some unique angle with the art or their brand, then they can create a really powerful collection. But if they're just copying everyone else and doing the same thing, it's not really going to work that well.
For me, it's a longevity play. So often I create a piece of art and I post it on social media and it dies there. Now maybe I could turn it into merch, or maybe I could sell prints, or make a physical, tangible thing. But again, it shortens the life. Where adding utility, it adds longevity to your art, and because the novelty of a little thing, it wears off and people get bored of it. So it's adding the community, it's adding longevity to your artwork, making it work harder, if you will. But for me, utility, like they said, you don't have to promise it, but man, does it enhance it when it aligns perfectly with the community and the value that it adds to the person who owns it and holds it.
Yeah. My 2 cents to that. For example, Origin, which is the visual agency that I'm building currently, I started thinking about how can we use NFTs to help it flourish, with less efforts but maximum potential. So my business partner and I came with the plan of calling, the first NFT that we're going to be launching very soon is going to be called the OG membership. And how I will be monetizing this for the agency will be saying, if our target audience of entrepreneurs that happen to have entrepreneurship in their DNA and their blood and everything that they do constantly, those are the people that I want. So I say we have 50 spots, and those 50 spots in an NFT token, it will be for, you get to have 10% off for life, with every single business that you have, because every single business needs an identity, a strategy, a point to it. So having that in mind, and you saying, well, I have 5 businesses, well, I end up saving money while still providing and having a token of exclusivity, similar to a coupon, similar to a background, all access pass, essentially. So at that point, creating value for my business as a creative, that's where I will be using NFT for that reason. So that's my 2 cents there.
rehearsal, I made this point and I forgot to mention it, is like the fact that it is an NFT is already an additional utility that wouldn't otherwise already be there. It allows the users to want, like, if we all agree that this gives provenance to that, then I own that IP. But also, it allows the users to, or the community members or the patrons of your art to trade and create a secondary market or possibly earn from that. And I forgot to mention that earlier, but there's like the fact that it is an NFT is already giving additional utility to your art, and it's not important. It's important to not forget that part too.
Definitely. You guys dropped some really big gold nuggets there, honestly. One from perspective of just like how you can build a connection with your community, with your message. And then the other piece this man just dropped on like a business retainer model, right? Like people got businesses, you're always gonna need brand and creative things that'd be created, right? You know, like wouldn't you want extra discounts on the additional business that you got and then build a retainer with it? That's correct. I picked up what you're putting down. I might later. So then it brings to my next question then. So how can artists or how can any business owner currently incorporate NFTs to what they're doing, even though they're like know nothing about it? What would be like one of the first steps to get into it?
Well, similar to what Eric said, you can have like a membership program and grant that through your NFTs, or loyalty programs like rewards. Having the NFT grants you that within the business. So those are kind of some simple ways for a business to incorporate something that they're already doing, but it's provided through the verification from the NFT.
Also join TBD, just kidding. But no, so in terms of, so there's two methodologies behind it. The first one, if you just wanted to create an NFT in general, it could be as simple as Dropbox, where you just upload, add the tags, metadata through really good third-party software like OpenSea, Wearable, that can make the onboarding process easy for you. So that's like one way of getting down to it. But again, before like getting like too, just like understand, get familiar with like the process, what are the different network, like layer ones like Ethereum, Solana, Cardano. Why do you want to go into that? And then look at those frameworks that you can use to kind of upload. It does like almost like anything, like as an artist, like going to a new medium, like for going from digital art to watercolors, you do going to have to learn a little bit and like get into it. But over time, like give or take like, you know, a couple of weeks or a month, you'll be efficient enough to where you can just keep spitting out like a lot of NFTs to that.
You guys got anything down on it? No? Okay. How can
Artists specifically or businesses?
either or, honestly, it's based on your answer, based on everyone's answer.
Yeah,
It's
well, no,
not
so,
just artists.
like my recommendation, or the way I would think about it, would be different if you're a business selling a service versus if you're an artist creating a product. Essentially, like if you're an artist creating a product, you essentially have like, okay, either I already have art that I want to make an NFT, right? That's an easier process, and then you have like, okay, do I want to launch this in the most broad marketplaces, or kind of do through other means? Or you're an artist that says, I want to create a collection unique to the NFT space and do it new. So then you'd have to create the art, obviously. And then you'd have to decide how you want to launch it and what ecosystems you want to launch it to with the customers that may relate to you. Or as an artist, you can say, okay, I want to do something new that couldn't otherwise be done unless I had this this medium in which I could create this art with, which requires a lot more work. But that's how I would think about it. Is like, first figure out what you're trying to do, and then test small. Like start simple. He has Ben, right? Yeah, he's got a really good example of like, why starting simple works out pretty well.
I can tell that story. So I'm an artist, and I approach things through that artist perspective. So when I first heard about the crypto space and specifically NFTs, I thought, oh, this is an interesting way to put my art out there and connect with a new audience maybe, and get some scratch too on the side if it works out. And so I started with I'd planned to do 100 characters, individual characters. But I said, you know what, let me measure. Let me just release 10 and see how that goes. Nothing. They just sat for months. I put it out there, told friends, told people. They didn't do anything. And I thought, cool, fun experiment. That's fine. I quit. Well, I wasn't discouraged, but I was like, okay, cool. I don't need to put more time into this just yet. It's not a proven thing in my life yet. Then fast forward a couple months, a friend of mine who is heavily in the space, he's actually a member of the Friends with Benefits group. He said, you need to revitalize that. And I said, yeah, I tried. It didn't work out. And he said, no, you need to simplify it, you need to streamline it, clean it up. And so I removed some elements of the art, cleaned it up, took away some meta description because some people don't care about that. I was like OCD and everything has to have a backstory and lore and all this. People didn't care. So anyways, I simplified it. We released all 100 because that was the other thing. He was like, are they done? I was like, yeah, they're done. And I had to finish and rush and finish the last like 30. And so had 100, launched them all at the same time, and they sold out. And so that just proved to me that, like, one, you got to find the right community. You got to find the people, like, art, community, meet, and don't give up. Start small. You take a little risk, and then, you'll find out what works for you. So, yeah, that was how it worked specifically for me, of just trying things, trying my art in a different way, seeing it from a different perspective, getting outsiders' opinions. And so, yeah, that was the...
That's awesome.
Keep
I love that story. Pretty much continuing down the path that you know you're going down, but don't get discouraged along the way.
Absolutely.
Nice. So, next question then. What do you guys see the future of NFTs? We've talked a lot of business. We've talked a lot of art. Let's hear it.
No, that's not actually what I want to say, but. So where I personally see them, where things are going to go in the future is bridging the gap from physical to digital. And what do I mean by that? For instance, I think like for an artist, it's like we all, like if you're an artist and you like, paint on a medium, right? It's like very like, me to this easel or to the canvas. But where I see the gap that's being bridged is like the technology is going to get there in which that the artists can now immerse themselves physically or in the digital space into the art. So I saw this actual video. I forgot where there's like Oculus or some VR headset where the artist puts it on. There was like a easel, and they was able to go inside their own artwork and just start painting like the eye, and then zoom it out and do like a light eyebrows and shit, and just like kind of like really get into the art. So that's why I think, because as an artist, so like as an artist, I would definitely say, being really immersed and in tune with your art itself, that is what some of the things that the technology can bring for an artist in that space. And so now instead of just being like, oh, just like me and this canvas, it's like, oh, what are you going to work today? Well, I got to go inside like this pupil and like, like paint it up. Because now you have a more like absorbed feeling and immersive experience in the art that you're creating. So that's why I think where the future of art and like NFTs are going to go.
Yeah, so the metaverse, bro. I mean, all right, so if I think about what the value of the NFT is, it's you got provenance, which is essentially ownership, and then you got composability, which is essentially what grants you the options and to add additional utility on it. So I think that's going to be pushed to the limits. Like, we're going to see more and more of that. So more and more ownership models with like, different rights managements and things like that, but also new composability models of, maybe I'm an artist over here and I have my community, but this NFT grant, my homeboy over there that I'm trying to start up grants access to here, and you'll see more shared economies in that way. But then also, in addition to kind of the collaborative composability, the financialization of NFTs is really interesting. So if I make an NFT out of my house, I can take collateral. I can use it as collateral to take out a loan against it. Or I could use my art as collateral and things like that. Or I could fractionalize my NFT and create a token out of it. And now I have this fungible token that's represented by this main NFT, and I can create new economies and new ways of ownership and collaboration around that. So I think, like, if you're thinking about that, just ask yourself, like, okay, how does ownership evolve in the new internet, and how does composability with these new basically tools evolve in the new internet? And it includes the metaverse, but I also think financialization is a big aspect of it.
Plus one to that. I think the entire world is going to start moving more into the digital space. I mean, right now you can think of everyone after COVID started using the internet a lot more, in Twitter specifically, like just social media, and it became like the first entry into this digital identity was people's like Twitter profile pic, right? That's how people started to represent themselves, and that's one of the reasons why you saw like these PFP projects do so well, is people wanted a way of showing that digital identity. But it's really a basic version of that model, that idea of what is your identity and how you're going to represent yourself in this digital world. And the more things get digitized, the more, the metaverse, even though it's probably a longer way off than people, are imagining it,
tomorrow.
It's the idea, we're in it right now, guys. This is a simulation. So, but even the idea of things moving more into the digital realm is just going to happen naturally. Like, it just makes too much sense for people to have like property traded, represented as an NFT, or to have authenticity of some real merchandise. Like if you buy a Rolex, why should you have to have someone verify it when you can just check the blockchain and verify the provenance of it? So just using these different tools, it's going to start becoming so practical, and I think there's going to be a market. The market may come and go in different ways, just like the .com boom. Like there's going to be a lot of, like in the .com boom, Google and Amazon were some of the big players, but there's a bunch of companies that didn't last because they just didn't build for the future correctly. So I think the same thing is going to happen with NFTs. It's going to be here to stay. It's just the people that are really adding the most value are the ones that are going to stick around.
For me, the future of NFTs in this space, it's like taking the middleman out of certain instances and interactions. As a creator, I think of sometimes you have to find an agent or you have to work for an agency if you're not able to be independent, be a freelancer your own. Or even thinking about the music industry, I mean, how many stories have we heard about contract disputes and labels and, so it's removing some of those middlemen, some of those systems that are not set up for success. And I think it's bringing, artists closer together with their community. And I think, like they're saying, it is the metaverse. The metaverse is here, man. Yeah, it's this democratization, this open field. That's what I see the future. Like artists being able to express themselves freely, and creatives having more outlets. So for me, it's a positive. It's a even with the technology and even with the criticisms of, potential economic, hindrances, to me it's a positive to allow me to be free and control my destiny in a way with my creative.
Yeah, so in addition to what Tyler said with the digital identity, I think we're going to see a lot of, your real world identities on the blockchain as well. So this will be like a blockchain-based ID. You can think of it as, instead of, you would avoid like security fraud because my personal identity is tied to the NFT. You could make it so the NFT can't be traded, so that's going to be my identity in the form of an NFT. You can think of like your Carfax. Your car could be an NFT. So all of your car history, that's going to be on the blockchain, and you can choose to, when you sell the car, you're going to get that NFT. There's already a cryptocurrency project called Cardano working with Ethiopia, and they're working with their educational system. So thousands of kids are going to have their school records available to them whenever they want on the blockchain. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, once you get that identity, like at least like roughly formed, then you can start to get like way more efficient market mechanics, so long as like too much regulation doesn't get in the way with things like insurance. Like I know everybody thinks insurance is a scam. Well, it doesn't have to be. It can actually be like an interesting way of balancing a market. And that's just one example that came to the top of my mind. Yeah, I do. I have bear market proof insurance. It's called come to TBD.
Yeah, and really quick. In addition to that. So right now, everybody's data is out there being utilized without their benefit at all. So NFTs allow for my data to be in my control, and if I wanted to sell that off, then I could do that as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, some more additional privacy tech is required for adoption, but in essence, you would own it at least.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. That was actually a lot of the list of questions that we actually rounded up from the audience. So now, we're actually going to go to open Q&A. You guys ready to be asked some questions this time? Other than me? Kate, you had a question?
It's so you said you sold out your NFTs and there was 100 of them, right? How did you know how to price it? Like, coming from an artist standpoint, we got a lot of business people, right? So how did you know that? And what did you do? Or did you really care about the money? I guess I'm just going to ask, did you really care about the money?
I did care about the money, short and simple. But I do actively right now. But really it was looking at, other projects I thought were similar to mine. So it was a 100-character, drop. I'm not famous, so there wasn't a ton of maybe there wasn't a ton of extra utility. It just was the simple artwork. Some projects even they allow you to, or they when you buy the NFT, you own the rights to that character and you own the file. And so because I'm an artist, I felt a little weird about that ownership right. So again, it's a pretty simple, straightforward. So I really just looked at other projects that I thought were similar in their age, in their complexity, and I priced around that. And even asked some friends like, what do you think? what would you price it? So yeah, it was shot in the dark. It wasn't a science. It was what felt good.
One interesting mechanism I saw recently for pricing is a lot of people are familiar with Dutch auctions in NFTs because it's a way of, if there's demand coming in for your NFT, the NFT slowly goes down in value over time as far as the price to mint. But then if it sells out before then whatever, everyone paid that price. But if nobody's buying, then the price just keeps dropping down until it's a certain floor price. And it's an interesting way of price discovery. But then there's a new method I saw where it's called a fair Dutch auction, where it basically, with the problem with the Dutch auction is then you incentivize everyone to wait as long as possible before minting. With a fair Dutch auction, you refund anyone who paid early. So if a bunch of people mint at the beginning of your drop, and they overpaid, and then it ended up taking a while, and then it's sold out at a lower price, everyone gets back the difference, and it's the fairest method I've seen for pricing.
I just want to make a comment on some people's kind of underlying feelings of I'm not in it for the money, or I'm only in it for the tech and it's not for the money. This technology is meant to democratize finance. So the money's intrinsically tied to the tech in the first place. And you should use that new way of creating and capturing value as a tool that can be used, as opposed to where you just had maybe cash before. Now you have these new instruments that anybody can use and interact with you, and that's a part of your collection. And therefore, don't hide from the money or the value. Go and get what you were supposed to get the whole time.
Another question? We got another question.
So this is for more of the tech guys, I guess. So you hear a lot right now of NFTs are the next big thing. They're, the future of our world, whatever. But you hear a lot of people who are just it's a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's something that holds no real value at all. How do you know what actually has value, what's, meaningful and intentional and helpful for us, versus what is somebody literally screenshotting a piece of artwork and then just setting it up for $30 to make money?
You don't. Yeah, I mean, value goes on two spectrums, right? One is completely utilitarian, and then the other is completely abstract. Depending on how safe you feel as an individual is where you lean on that spectrum. If we're here sitting right now, we're it's not going to be World War III tomorrow, therefore we start to think of abstract concepts and we consider that to be valuable. But if it's World War right now, nobody's buying profile pictures. That's what we will consider to be valuable. So you have to look and see what community am I participating in, and how safe do they feel, and then therefore you will know what they're actually valuing, or you'll get a rough idea of what you're actually valuing, and then you can ask yourself that same question: do I see the world as in a positive light, and going more progressive and exploring new abstract concepts or new ways of forming community around these shared mythologies, or do I just want to increase my margin by 10%, and therefore I need a more efficient system, so we're going to use NFTs on a beep, boop, blah, blah, blah. Both of those are valid and both of those are valuable, but in terms of identifying what project is doing what, there's ways to not get scammed, but we've all been scammed, so you're not gonna pick all the winners, I'll tell you that.
So as an artist, how do I decide which chain to put my NFT on?
Yeah, so deciding which chain is really going to depend on, I would say, how comfortable you feel with either the community on that chain or how, to be honest, marketing budget, because some chains are just a lot more expensive to mint on. Like Ethereum has the biggest communities right now, but it's also like the most expensive to mint an NFT collection on. So if you're going to build in that cost into your product, you're going to have to expect that you're going to have to sell it for a lot higher price. So then you're going to have to think, can I sell it for that price? So it's really a personal decision based on what you think your collection is going to sell at, and seeing where you resonate with the community. And if you find that's an alternative chain like Solana or Cardano or some other project, some other chain, then I would go with that. But Ethereum is kind of the gold standard right now, so you usually can't go wrong with that one.
Keep it simple. That's my biggest advice to anyone getting into this space, especially as an artist. Don't overcomplicate it. There's no like wrong answer. You could do a second one where you mint it on a different chain, but like whatever you can find the most material on that you can educate yourself, but keep it simple. Whatever works for you in your scenario, in your community, in your art. So keep it simple.
I like that. So essentially, I heard pretty much like make sure you do your research. Yeah. Right? Like look at popular things that are happening in that space.
I did Ethereum because, like you said, there's a huge huge group of people that already use it, and I had other people that could help me and teach me. So I went with what was the most obvious one. But now these guys could tell you the value of minting with other ones. So for me, it was Ethereum, and I didn't even, I didn't even think twice about it. So.
Got another question?
So we heard a lot of things about NFT, like usually good things, but are there any like downsides of NFT, if any?
I mean, yeah, like if you're purchasing an NFT and it goes down in value and then you sell it, that's a downside, right? You lost money there. If there's an expectation that you will get some sort of ownership, like if there's this promise made to you, and the NFT and the tech is fundamentally you own that token on the blockchain, but maybe that token isn't associated through meatware rights management that you actually have any IP at all, right? So you could be like manipulated or coerced into thinking that you have this sense of ownership. In reality, you just have like this useless token. So yeah, there's that. And I mean, I'll stop there and let other people go, but those are two main ones.
As an artist, that's a question that lives in the what if, and for example, how I will tackle something like that, having an actual tangible or the actual source of whatever you're creating, at the end of the day, that's what makes ownership, similar to music. Just because I launch a song doesn't mean that someone's not gonna listen to it and say, well, this thing is missing, downbeat here, and then do their own remix, and that's scary for people who put the thought, who want to be unique enough to stand out while still going with the lane, so that question right there, I know that you try to answer, but I know you could do better, or someone could do better, because as an artist, it's a living anxiety attack. Why would I get into this if the laws are not set? And like you said, it literally is a wild, wild west. From like, I could bring the value. As an artist, I know what I'm capable of, but are you going to value that? Is someone else going to give me exactly what I'm worth and respect the fact that I created that for them? Anyone?
Yeah, just echoing that, it's risk on both ends. Risk in the creation, because your time is money, but obviously risk on the purchasing and getting into a community. So yes, there's tons of downsides. So
I can add a couple more. Like you said, there's like legal. I think NFTs are safer than fungible tokens in terms of like securities laws and things like that, especially if you're creating art. It's basically this: you created a product and you sold the product, and you can be taxed as such, and you're not like a security. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. There's additional risks, like we were talking about, which chain to to mint on. Like if Ethereum breaks and it's not the new chain tomorrow, and you built this entire ecosystem around this blockchain, then you now have to, like, you have that sunk cost and you have to make that transition cost. In addition to that, I know you're a developer, so there's different token standards that could come up. We say NFTs, but there's actually different Ethereum token standards that are all NFTs. So what if the new tech doesn't use your standard anymore, and you got to build around that? But those are mostly just costs in terms of risk, but I don't think anything necessarily fatal outside of putting all your money into something and then losing all of it. That would probably be the worst one.
Do you think it has to do anything with the whole meta that goes behind it?
You mean like the meta game?
Well, the actual, kind of like posting something. You know, it operates well because of the hashtags that you're putting. Or
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. Like the in the NFT space, that there's a lot of game theory behind what would make something successful, and it depends on the utilities, the promise, the existing community, and then also like the potential upside. Right. That's why a lot of the profile pictures go up, is because they are easier to go viral, and if done right, like Tyler could probably talk more about the tokenomics of different launches on NFT projects, but if done right, you know, it's easy 10x. Right. So a lot of people, you know, they go viral very quickly. It's easy to do, and if the economics are right, like it's easy to gain off of.
And I mean, I think it goes without saying that this is an industry with a lot of risk. I mean, it's very emerging, and people are flipping JPEGs for tens of thousands of dollars. So, so you know, you have to do your own research, and you have to be careful with what you're buying, and to know that this is, you know, these could go to zero. But it's also, when you're in the forefront of the technology and you're actually taking these risks, you're learning a lot along the way. You're finding new ways to give value to people. And I think that's where it brings a lot of value out of people, is because you're creating a new form of media. And if you can master that, you're going to be one of the first people to do it.
Yeah. So Ben, you've produced an NFT. Have you produced it? I'm sorry. Remind me your name again. Eric. Have you made an NFT yet? Go.
I am currently in the process of finding the laws that I could fit in to expose my media that I've already created. So I have as an artist, not as my agency, but as an artist, I do have a 50 image line or collection that I plan to launch as step one to get my feet wet, right? I don't know much about this entire process. I just, like I was telling the guys, I just made my wallet. And I said something else to the Discord thing, right? So not just yet, but the intention is there, the purpose is there, and I know where I would like to go. And just being thoughtful about what I'm creating, I hope that other people could also join into the vision of the purpose.
That's wonderful. So I'm going to invite both of you, Eric and Ben. Well, first of all, do you know that there's a contest going on right now at Tampa Bay DAO to submit an NFT for a boat thing? You don't? Oh my God. They don't know yet. But second of all, is the fact that yeah. And I'm also going to ask you to come teach, because you got to teach it. Like artists, you know, whether it be here or Tampa Bay DAO, to invite you in to come over there, right? And you know, set up a space, right? I mean, we need people to come teach. And you know, Eric, you're talking about you're in the middle of it right now. Well, I don't know. Come on down to Tampa Bay HQ. Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry. I hogged the mic. Hold on.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
I have a question that's more for the creatives. So Web 2 was more about making people have the ability to create. Readers could then become writers. That was kind of what that allowed. Web 3 is supposed to allow more peer-to-peer interactions and ownership. Do you guys fear, you know, creating off of things like Adobe or Figma or something of that nature, of them somehow claiming ownership of something that you've built in this new space?
Call it overconfidence, call it naivete. No, as a simple. And again, I don't mean this, but try me, Adobe. Again, I don't have a legal team. If they did come for me, I would offer it up like, yes, this is your NFT, Adobe. But I mean, I feel like on a PR move, that would be incredibly hurtful to the community that they serve if they were like, we're taking ownership of all the things that you made on our platform. I mean, we run agencies, we run businesses, and we sell, you know, goods using their software. So if they haven't done that with people making money off their product now, I'm hesitant to think the evil corporation would act evil. So again, I get it, it could happen, but you know, I don't think that will. I'm not scared of Adobe coming for me. Are you, Eric? Yeah, or Figma or anyone.
I think it's, I'm thinking about it like radio play. You know, as an artist, I have a product that I want other people to listen to. So as long as the tag is there and as long as the purpose is, as long as the art is not being butchered, you know, to be honest, use it whoever wants. You know, the whole point of having creativity and share it with other artists and peers is to inspire other people. Like if I'm not encouraging you, what am I doing? So at that point, having a source like Adobe, I will feel flattered that Adobe is saying, for example, I'm not saying that Adobe is doing this just yet, but Adobe, please put my art everywhere, in the intro of every software. Do it now. It's me, Eric. So the intention of paying homage to the actual art and the artist, I think that more people could benefit from that if they were to do that. But you know, put the tag. Like we have to eat too. So not just by NFT, but by word and by accountability and by understanding that there's a purpose for that. So,
do you gentlemen foresee a way that artists could, you know, get or have their original stuff be, you know, taken ownership in that sense?
Well, that depends. I mean, if we're talking about NFTs or talking about the corporations. So
NFTs or the corporations or what?
Okay, all right. Well, let's just stick to NFTs. So a lot of NFTs, you know, this is a misconception that a lot of people have is when you buy an NFT, you automatically get the intellectual property. That's actually not the case. So
it's not written into the contract.
it's not, if it's not actually specified, you know, as part of the contract or part of the website or whatever, then people don't have that assumption that they have the intellectual property. So without that, you know, the person can't reproduce it. It's just they own basically a product. It's like, you know, if you have a poster or something like that, doesn't mean you can make copies of the poster and sell those. However, a lot of projects do give their IP away because it does create interesting value propositions where people can create new value on top of your NFT. And I think that's actually a good thing because it open sources the creativity, and you know, it's a clear distinction here. You're saying like, this is something I want the community to collaborate with and contribute to, so I'm giving them the intellectual property. And then you see, I mean, like Bored Apes did an example where someone bought an ape and they used it in a TV show, or bought an ape and they used it on at a restaurant as part of the branding. So you know, they obviously had to have the IP for that. Yeah. And that was an interesting thing they could do with it.
Yeah, like the risk that exists today in terms of taking your IP away would be the risk that exists in the future as well, until it's like until most of those middlemen are taken out, right? Where it's automated essentially from the point of creation to the point of provenance, which is like maybe it's a tool on Adobe, maybe it's a different tool where you create the thing and then it's minted right then and there on the blockchain. And because of that, because there has been no intermediary, that has to be the legal binding evidence that is the title, that you are entitled to that. As long as there's any other thing, like in photography, I was talking to some guy that does a lot of that, where in copyright law or whatever, it's actually the negatives that are what prove that you are the most basic proof of ownership, which I thought was really interesting. So if you think about it like that, you just have to think about like the, I don't know, supply chain or creation chain, and see like, okay, you have risk in all of those points throughout it, but I don't think it's any more risk than what exists today.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think that like IP will really be an issue because there's so many different creators. Just like any other revolution, right? Group of people get together, agree on the common goal, and then they overconquer that, or they get to that goal. But I think most importantly, for the IP part, IP should be open and public. How else did we get as a civilization? Every idea was built on top of each other. Look at music, as Pat always says, the music never marries. All the music you always hear is like some type of iteration, some type of melody that's always the same, and it's always going on top. And that's where, as Tyler said, the value is being there. So as long as everyone's working together and building on top as the same common creativity, the goal, the vision, it will be undeniable and unstoppable, because we all want to keep promoting creativity, self-sovereignty. How to keep doing that is by sharing, about collaboration, being vulnerable with your own artwork and what you're trying to do. So as long as we're going to have that open vulnerability with each other, even if, let's just say, Adobe or OpenSea says, like, no, we're going to own it, that shit would not fly. I mean, it would not fly at all. Because, why? Because there's so many different collectors that all believes in the same the vision and goal, where guess what? We'll just build another tool, and then we're going to get a marching band behind that and kind of grow and go. So, yeah.
Yeah, like that's a key point. Is like if the incentives don't align with the platforms in Web3, at least, like there's going to be another platform that gets built. Like if OpenSea all of a sudden was like, we now own the NFTs, then the next day there'd be a new NFT platform. Like, but as far as the tooling to create this stuff, that's a little bit different. I don't know what those terms and conditions look like. I'm sure that Adobe it's in their best interest for the creators to make money off of their creations. Otherwise, they wouldn't use the tool anymore. Or at least a lot less of them would.
I think we have one more question.
Two more.
Okay. Hey guys. Do you guys think there's enough conversation happening around economic development and creators in the Web3 space? And yes or no? And how do we continue to stimulate those conversations, as well as around like mindset for creators, so it's not like, how meme stocks was, how do we create responsibly and just continue to promote that culture, creating a more like sustainable future for creators in the Web3 space?
Yeah, I don't know what responsibility is, to be honest with you. Like, is it, like, are you a free market maximalist who says, like, basically the cost of making a market more efficient over time is you pay too much and a couple people get rugged for the benefit of the collective over time? If you look at the progress of technology, it seems to be useful, but there's areas in which it's detrimental. Like, I personally don't have that answer, so I think, no, there's not enough conversation around it, because there's probably never enough conversation, because I don't know what responsibility means.
I think you'll see, like, as you engage in different communities, you'll see different values pop up, and that's the interesting thing that Web3 enables, is like these communities to come together and find ways of pooling value if they're all in alignment. And if you jump into Twitter Spaces, like I actually do see a lot of thought and put into this of how people can give back to their community. How, like, even what we're doing actually is building local with our local DAO, and it's a way of revitalizing our community locally and helping the people that are adding value, helping amplify them even more. And so I think you'll see that in a lot of different projects, but you have to look for the right ones, and that requires being actively involved in like Discords and Twitter Spaces and Clubhouses and things like that, and seeing what people's values are.
Yeah, that's the key, is like aligning with the groups that share your values, right?
Over communication.
You can solve for that, right?
Yeah, pretty much a lot of communication is what I'm hearing based on both your answers, is making sure your research is there and communicating with the community that's actively involved. Because the more people you have that are active and more people that are communicating, a little bit better. Am I right?
And communicating around shared values.
Yes.
Yeah, actually taking action and creating around shared values is the key. Like, as far as determining like what the most important values are, there's no answer for that. But if you can find a group that cares about one topic or one thing or one form of creation, you'll be all right.
And at the end of the day, by the looks of it, coming into this as a blank slate. Anything could be an NFT. So let's say, for example, you're in the real estate world, or let's say, for example, someone is in the real estate world, right? They're doing a showing for a house, and they do this whole like spiel to get it out there. You know, just like we're trying to build a portfolio, you could do the same thing. You could do like with everything that you do. You know, if you're selling an earring just because of how yours are, just like if you're selling an earring, right, and you have your own version of it, make it digital, but while also keeping, you know, the real one. And so you're giving people something for your this whole transaction of giving you the value that you're looking for while still owning that value yourself. And then there's always a price for everything else that ties into that. So.
Hi. Okay, this is probably a really beginner question, but how does getting your work, like how does the algorithm work, I guess? Like how would you ever get your artwork being seen?
I mean, it would ultimately depend on...
Wait, and also the second question with that though would be, you guys keep talking about communities and everything, like is there different subcategories and then within that community you have that? I don't know.
All not. We're gonna go into it. We're gonna get into it today. So the first thing is like, anytime, like, think of any type of entrepreneurship, right? You have an idea, you want to come up. Hey, we want to get into NFT space. How do you be seen? Just like any grassroots, you gotta be in the trenches. You gotta actually promote. You gotta advertise. Talk to your friends. Hey, can you like share this? Do a launch. Have a website. Have a Square shop, as if you're like selling jewelry. Or yeah, is that Square Inc. or how you like say? Yeah, whatever. So yeah, just like have that. But it all takes like organic approaches, and it takes time. And so actually, if anything, Fung and Wally, they're brothers. It's all the same like tactic that you would do as if you're a typical entrepreneur. There isn't really a Instagram algorithm. You could use like different mediums like Instagram, Facebook to build up their brand, your community, the messaging that you have behind it. So that'd be your first approach. And the community is what you want to have as a collective that will bond over that same thing. So like, let's just take Ellie, she's here, right? She wants to do tarot cards. She can sell tarot as an NFT, right? She can go to her local community. Everyone knows her. We all love her. And then from there, she can start building a collective around it. It's like, hey, we all agree on this. We all align on this. And so over time, through word of mouth, just like grassroots. That's why it's always starting local. I mean, in St. Pete, always start local first and slowly scale out. Now, if you want to conquer the world, then that's a totally different beast. But at least like locally, you'll know it all starts from like neighbor to neighbor, peer to peer, slowly, organically. Then over time, people will start saying like, oh, shit. Even though I'm in Georgia, I just got an advertisement for this. This is a collective I agree with. Boom, I'll start going in from there. So that would be a really good approach of how you can do that.
Yeah, like, and especially today with the market being so immature, what would get you trending on something like OpenSea is trading volume. Mm-hmm. You know, like the rate in which your trading volume is increasing means like OpenSea is going to make more money, therefore they're going to put you up on farther up. You know, because that's how they make their money is off of fees of trading volume. There's other platforms that they take a more curated approach. I can't remember the one that Friends with Benefits is working on. Sorry, I would plug it right now, but you can look and see like, okay, these communities have shared values and they're willing to handpick collections and give them like the spotlight, whereas an algorithm would fail. So you could look into those different platforms and the communities around those platforms. And then you asked a question about like, when we say communities, like what are the types of sub-communities? When we're talking about communities in crypto, we were originally talking about communities that form around the NFT projects. So these could be like, the Bored Ape Yacht Club is a community that has this shared sense of like, we're the coolest people around and we're gonna do fun stuff and we're gonna flash our wealth or whatever the hell they do. Like that's their shared values. That's how they identify as part of the yacht club. It's really that simple. It could be anything. We at Tampa Bay DAO, we identify with like, we're gonna leverage these Web3 tools and we're gonna create free agents. That's our shared values. Like we're Tampa Bay DAO, that's what we're doing. That's our community. In terms of it, like, so, community is a fairly ambiguous word and it'd be hard to kind of just give you a list. But it boils down to shared values. And some of the most common ones you see in crypto are profit motives, or lore driven, like shared identity driven, or they're building different products to provide different utilities in the space, different like essentially financialization of different things in the space. So that's how I would like categorize them basically.
Nice, nice. Well, awesome. Well, we're going to end it actually on one last question in itself. So it's actually going to be, let's say you're not an artist. Let's say you're a big advocate for NFTs and you're a business owner, stuff like that. How can someone participate and support in that venture?
Well, first of all, like, you don't have to be an artist. What's the project Dinos?
I'm not sure.
Have you ever seen the Dino NFTs? Okay, well, Google like how to make a dino in 30 seconds, and then Google the floor of dinos. It's like 8 ETH or something like that, and you can make it in 30 seconds. So like you can literally be an artist, and like at the most basic level, you don't have to identify as like I am not this or I am that. So that's one, and then I think your question was how you would enter into or use NFTs. Yeah, well, you could participate as a trader. You could participate as part of a community. You could add value to that community in non-technical or non-creative ways, such as organizing and facilitating. A lot of people don't want to coordinate other people because it's hard, and therefore it's like valuable to do that. And people, especially in crypto, will pay for that. You could take notes, you could curate, or you could work with another artist and launch your own NFT project. So those are like just some of the ways, but basically any market agent is required in crypto too.
I mean, really simply, you could, like you were asking the marketing question and how to get your name out there. If you can't create but you want to participate, you can do the research, look up, find interesting projects and promote them. Be the bullhorn. These people, these artists that maybe don't have the platform that you do, they're not reaching the audience that you are. So I think it's shining a light on projects you think are interesting, and I think it's, making connections and giving people platforms where they maybe have a lack, that they don't have the reach that you do. So I think it's, encouraging others. Do you want to? Yeah.
I heard someone say that the same way that you would promote your business locally, you should do the same thing, and tags along exactly to that. Like build something that you could just give away, right? And at that point too, you're getting your name out there, you're making connections with people, and those people are going to promote your stuff because it's going to benefit them too. So at that point, whether that is two pictures, and those two pictures are with the same angle and they're consistent, and you do it again for the third one, and then you keep on hyping people around your bubble, so that way it just keeps on going. The same way that, Tampa's a big high school. That's the way I see it, It's trademark, okay. But Tampa is a big high school. Like you look at Seminole Heights, we have the trendy, the artists live there. Downtown Tampa is the tech guys, the people who, the money tech. You go to South Tampa, don't get me started on that. So it's definitely, it's figuring out your bubble, and it's exactly the same thing. This is foreign to all of us because it's a different terminology. But if you really think about it, it's applicable. It's the same thing. It's been done for generations. So think about it that way. Don't overcomplicate it. And I'm preaching to myself, of course, but connecting with people that have a little bit more knowledge, and that might give you those tidbits or those keywords or those realignments or those nudges. Give them something back too. Say, hey, matter of fact, I am launching this little thing, and I hope that with your help, I can make it bigger. And that's it. It's exactly the same thing as starting a brand new business, working from home, working from the couch, whatever it is that you do. It's just exactly the same thing. So just take that approach, and let's see what these guys could do while also incorporating all of us. We're all artists in a certain way. We all are problem solvers in a different way, so that's my 2 cents there.
Oh, I love it. That's great. It's great. So on that, I love that actually ending on him on there. So real quick then, as we end this panel, how can people find you? Where should they send you? Go ahead, give your shameless plug. How can the people find you?
So the agency that I am building here with my business partner, Yoshi Diaz, is right here in this corner right here. That closet space that we have made into an artistic area that we problem solve there. Doesn't matter if we make billions or trillions or millions or thousands or hundreds, we're always going to be in that spot just for the condensity of what Origin is all about. We create marks that live in small spaces first, and then application is endless. So if you look at that wall, they're all black and white, and they start like that, and they finish like that most of the time because the client ends up loving it. So you can find Origin at We Are Origin. On Instagram, website is the same thing. All of it is the same thing. And if you just want to chat with me or look at my personal portfolio work, you could go to Instagram or my website is the same thing, madebyescs.com or at madebyescs. And there I just post, pretty much like anything that is creative and whatever I could use to encourage other people.
My company is The Late Night, night as in shining armor. And you can find it Instagram, The Late Night, or thelatenight.com. And yeah, that's me.
Cool. And yeah, just come join the Tampa Bay DAO. You can go to our website, tampabaydao.com, and sign up for our mailing list, and we can get you into the Discord and start engaging with you right away. So my name is Tyler, so you can find me on Twitter also. It's Ty Hinkle on Twitter.
And I'm Alex. You can find me on Instagram at AlexDesigner. Nice and easy. And then Tampa Bay DAO, we're always downtown St. Pete, so if you guys are ever around, we're usually at the Kava Kratom shops nearby.
Yeah, same TBD stuff. But if you want to communicate with me directly, you can email me at kelsey@tampabaydao.com. And I'll get right back to you eventually.
I'm just going +1 what he said.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys for joining us today in the NFT panel, and that is it. Appreciate you guys.